FNAF World is by far one of the most underrated games in the franchise, and with the recent announcement of FNAF World 2 coming out soon, I thought I'll take a look back on not only FNAF World, but an old video of mine, since a few years ago I did this very video. However, I'll be honest in saying that ranking completely sucks, and I'm constantly reminded on how bad that list is. So this is my attempt of a redemption. All 48 characters ranked worst to best. Now, in order to make this list as fair as possible, I will be considering not only the moveset of the character as I did in the first video, but also where you unlock the character, how easy it is to access the character, and how useful they are during a normal playthrough of FNAF World, if we're going for all the endings. So, keep that in mind and also remember this. This is a personal ranking based on my own personal opinions from playing through the games myself. This is not fact, this is just an opinion. So please be respectful in the comments. Although I would love to hear your opinions. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video, starting with the worst FNAF World character. Starting at the bottom of the barrel, we actually have a character who made their first and last appearance in this very game. A character who is terrible and just isn't worth even looking at. And that character is the baby Endo, or Endo plush, who is a character who I do not even understand why they added, considering Withered Golden Freddy was right there. Anyways, this little guy is pretty useless when you consider he's not the most common character out there. His 3 moves are pretty useless except for one, that being Water Hose 2. Neon Wall is useless because the auto shield chip exists and it's permanent. I-Beam isn't that good overall, and honestly, Water Hose 2 is such a niche move that will only be useful in very specific scenarios. Water Hose 2 does give you the ability to instantly kill enemies under 50% HP, but when this move doesn't even work on bosses, it doesn't really matter. Plus, by the time you actually get to unlocking this guy, you're winning most of your games so quickly that you could use normal Water Hose and get the same effect, if you get a chance to use it at all. I just cannot in any way, shape or form find a use for this guy, and for that, he ends up at the bottom of the list as the worst character in FNAF World. Considering how awesome their introduction was in FNAF 2 and how important they are to the overall story, the puppet or marionette really fell off in FNAF World. The puppet is the first on our list of what I will call gambling characters, which is characters whose movesets are either great for your party or so useless that you potentially screwed yourself. Escape Key might be a contender for an okay move, but with a 10% chance to work on normal enemies and a basically 0% chance to work on bosses, it's borderline useless in the realm for quick battles in FNAF World, only really getting used in the high-end challenges of the game, like 10 times normal health and all that. You'll see as I go on, I don't think that many gamble-like insta-kill moves are all that good, with the exception of one, which I will get to a bit later on down the list. Anyways, the puppet's other 2 moves are pretty trash. Prize Ball 2 is okay, as you can get some decent attacks, but you can also get some absolute trash, and even the good stuff isn't all that good in my opinion. Mystery Box might be one of the worst moves in the entire game, just completely swapping out your party for new characters who potentially could be awful. This move is only really useful if you only have the starting characters, and even then it barely has an excuse to be used. The puppet is also just not the most common for characters to find, so they aren't really worth finding at all, and for that, they get to be where they are on the list. Now, I don't have much to say about the next character. Paper Pals are borderline the exact same character as the puppet, having both Prize Ball 2 and Mystery Box. However, instead of the normal Mystery Box, they have Mystery Box 2, which is still garbage, but there is a chance you can get Jacko Bonnie, who, spoiler alert, is one of the best characters in the game. So there is at the very least that chance of happening. But again, that's gambling and it isn't very common to happen at all. The last move, Mimic Ball, is not the worst move on the planet, and it is probably the first decent move on the list. However, with the use of the Auto Mimic chip, this move just doesn't really get any usage. On top of that, Mimic Ball can also be a detriment that forces you to attack slower, which in the heat of battle can completely screw you over. But yeah, not much to say about Paper Pals. Pretty underwhelming character. Everyone's favourite. Well, according to who? I don't know, because I don't know a single person who likes Balloon Boy. I mean, in FNAF World, literally no one likes them. Balloons, munchies, and hot cheese are all pretty mid options for moves with very little in terms of damage, which is unfortunately what BB's strengths are meant to be. So overall, not a very worthwhile character, with their only strength being that they are the most common character in the entire game to encounter. However, considering how bad they are, it's not that worth it. So here we have another gambling character, with sadly my favourite with animatronic, Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy may be my favourite in FNAF 2, but not in FNAF World. His primary move is Escape Key, which is a very bad insta-kill move, and while Gloom Song is his best move, there are other characters who use it so much better with the better moveset, while also not being as uncommon. Mic Toss is just straight garbage, which unfortunately makes Withered Freddy just not the most viable character unless you literally have no one else, and for that, they sit at number 44 on our list. So this might be a surprising one. Fredbear is probably the most known NPC character, and as a party member, he is one of the rarest characters in the entire game. And considering how important he is ironically only needed for one ending, and then he's completely useless. Because for a character as rare as he is, his moves are really not worth the effort. His moves are okay, Mimic Ball and Mega Bite are decent moves on their own, but by the time you find him, chances are you'll have other party members with the same moves, or even better moves. And Regen Song is just complete garbage. There's pretty much zero reasons to get this guy outside of needing him for the universe ending, but the sheer grind to get this guy just isn't really worth it outside of getting every ending. So with that, despite being a main character in the game, he sits near the bottom. Healing is a pretty important part of FNAF World, with good healing allowing you to prevent your party from being completely wiped in the early game. But the late game, healing is pretty redundant since most characters can just one-shot you. And considering that even in the early game, Chica's healing potential is so garbage, she is really not that useful at all. The only reason she's not at the bottom is that she can be an okay healer in your starting party, but there are characters in that starting party who have better healing than her, which just shows how terrible she is as a character. Cupcake, Regen Song, and Party Favors are all pretty mid abilities and don't really do that much in terms of buffing your party. Party Favors can be okay for your first few battles, but realistically, Chica will be the first character you swap out during a normal playthrough, with experienced players just tending not to use her at all and putting her as a Team 2 backup. Sadly, the Chica would have better use being thrown into a deep fryer than being a team healer, and for that, she gets to be where she is on the list. Now we have the man of the hour, the one, the only, Freddy Fazbear, and he's not that good, guys, I'm sorry. For the main starting character, he's pretty much just the bare bones of what a character can be. His moves are pretty bad overall. Mic Toss is very bad, Pizza Wheel is okay and not a bad starting damage move, but it's not really that good besides the start, and Birthday is a pretty okay early buff for your party, but overall, Freddy is really not that useful outside of the starting matches, and will quickly get replaced by other variants. Now Mangle is a very interesting one. Since with Prize Ball, there is the chance for something to happen, and Poppers isn't the worst attack on the planet. However, Hook isn't much better than Mic Toss, and Poppers can be completely negated by the sheer fact that Mangle can die before they activate, and then it's just completely worthless. Mangle is definitely one of the characters of all time, and deserves to be this low on the list. He's Toy Freddy, and you better be ready, because despite how many Dapwaffle references you throw at me, this guy is straight trash. He's pretty much exactly the same as Freddy, except he has Party Favors, which is worse than Birthday in my opinion, and he has Speed Song, which is actually not a terrible move overall. However, out of the main three buffs that you can give to your party, Strength, Defense, and Speed, I would argue that character speed is not that important overall, and Toy Freddy isn't worth having just for that move alone, especially with Mic Toss. God, that move sucks. As much as Toy Freddy was OP and FNAF World Refreshed, he's pretty much useless here, so he will stay where he is. What does the fox say? Yeah, so that's really Foxy's only good move. Jump Scare is a decent starting move, but the problem is it doesn't work on bosses. Well, it does, but what is 1 second of stalling going to do in a boss fight? Anyways, Hook is a slightly better version of Mic Toss, and Hot Cheese is an okay damage move. For being one of the starting characters, they aren't that bad, but there are way better options out there, for sure. And sadly, Foxy kinda gets left in the dust. Next up on our very lengthy list, we have the second of the toy animatronics, unless you count Mangle, BB, or the puppet as a toy or whatever. Toy Bonnie is a pretty okay character, all things considered. Toy Bonnie has munchies, and despite being something that you would get after watching a Partly Cloudy video, it's a pretty mid move in FNAF World. Prize Ball is a gamble move, and Bash Jam is a pretty decent damage move when you start the game. However, it's not worth placing Toy Bonnie any higher on the list, as his other moves just aren't that good. Foxy's with the counterpart is pretty much exactly the same as the main Foxy, except he has Hot Cheese 2. Wow, what an upgrade. But in all fairness, Hot Cheese 2 is so much better than normal Hot Cheese, but not enough to put Withered Foxy any higher on the list. Not much to say, pretty meh character overall. Now we have everyone's real favourite, Toy Chica is next, and she's not that great. As fascinating as she was in FNAF 2, her moveset in FNAF World is pretty buns. Cupcake is a bad healing move, Birthday is whatever, and Water Hose is just kinda meh. Although looking at her moves, I do see a pattern. She has Cupcake because she has a cupcake, she has Birthday because she shows up to birthday parties, and she has Water Hose because that's what happens when I see you in the hall. Bonnie the Bunny is, in my opinion, the strongest of all the starting characters, and it's not even close. I mean, considering Toy Chica was just before, you might think otherwise, but no, I'm serious. Bonnie is easily the best of the starting characters. Now, does that mean he's great? Well, no, he's only number 34 on the list, he's still not that good overall, but he's okay. Like I said before, Bash Jam is a decent damage move, and Bite also isn't that bad. However, the real star of the show is Happy Jam. In my opinion, Happy Jam is the best healing move out of any of the starting characters' healing moves, which kind of makes Bonnie just a fantastic character, and he is always the last character I take off of my party during playthroughs. But sadly, he will start to struggle in the later parts of the game, even if he is leveled up. So with that, he is the last of the starting characters and gets to sit at number 34 on a list. But that's not to say Bonnie is all bad. I mean, he wanted me to tell you guys that you should subscribe to help me hit 150k by the end of the year, which I think is really cool of him. Comment W Bonnie and subscribe. Anyways, back to the list. Oh god, not another balloon kid. Yep, for some reason, Scott decided to add a second one of these little shits to the game. You cannot tell me this guy is not the king of rage baiting. Now, compared to her male counterpart, JJ does have a little bit more going for her. Mainly her best move is Unscrew, which, while it is a gambling move, isn't terrible in the early game when you encounter her. Balloons is just not the best, and neither is Poppers, so Unscrew is really all she has. And as much as a 30% chance to instantly kill someone is nice, it's not very useful against bosses, and just overall doesn't make her a very worthwhile character. So Withered Chica is kinda just a meh character, with her best move being Prize Ball 2. It's gambly, so I'm not a huge fan. Cupcake is whatever, and Bite is a decent damage move, but overall, there's just not really a reason to actually equip this character over anyone else, and for that, she gets to be where she is on the list. I'm Shadow Freddy, I'm so awesome and black. Yeah, so here we have the king of gambling, Shadow Freddy. Shadow Freddy either kills everyone or is completely useless. With Unscrew, Escape Keys, and Water Hose, this character is the perfect character if you are wanting some insta-kill moves in your pocket. However, personally, I find these moves kinda dumb and they don't even work half the time, which makes it kind of redundant in my opinion, which is why Shadow Freddy sits as low as he does. So here we have the first of the Phantoms, and the Phantom Marionette is okay. Jumpscare is a pretty alright move for early game, Hot Cheese 2 is an improvement over the first variant, and Mushy Box 2 might be the biggest gamble in the entire game. While replacing your party members can throw you off, there is a chance you can get Jacko Bonnie, who, spoiler alert, is a very good character. However, this is not guaranteed, and it's quite rare to actually happen, which in my opinion makes Phantom Puppet the weakest of the Phantoms. Now, Phantom BB is an interesting character to look at because while the thought of another balloon kid makes me want to tear my fucking hair out, this one's alright. Phantom BB has Toxic Balloon, which inflicts the poison status effect on a single enemy, which is alright. Gloom Balloon lowers a single enemy's attack power, which is okay against bosses. And finally, Rainy Day, which lowers the defense of every single enemy throughout a match, it's a pretty decent effect. Very surprising that the Balloon Kid is as high as they are, and even being praised by me, so you go Balloon Boy 2.0. Alright, spoiler, we have a run of Phantoms, and next up is Phantom Mangle. Phantom Mangle is a very interesting one, with some very interesting moves. Toxic Bite is a move that allows you not only to bite, but leave a lingering poison effect, which is a very decent attack. Pizza Wheel 2 is very similar to Pizza Wheel, but it actually deals damage, which is obviously pretty good, and I do really like it. However, Mystery Box is completely useless, which is why this character is dragged down for me, and Pizza Wheel 2 is not enough to put Phantom Mangle any higher on the list for me. Next up, we have Phantom Foxy, who on top of having Toxic Bite, has Jump Scare and Unscrew, which I think is slightly more viable compared to Phantom Mangle, and that is because they are a tad easier to find. They're definitely more viable, but I will say it is not by much, and you could interchange both these characters and the next one if you thought so. The last of the Phantoms for a while, sorry mini spoiler, Phantom Chica is a very decent character to unlock for your party. Toxic Bite is obviously decent, Unscrew isn't terrible, and Sludge is a very good slowdown, slowing down the enemy's speed for about 30 seconds, which is actually very useful, especially against some of the bosses who attack so fast that Sludge is almost required to in order to perform well against them. So Phantom Chica is alright, pretty decent, although not the best that the game has to offer. The first of our Nightmare characters, Nightmare Bonnie sadly takes the spot as the worst of the Nightmare characters. Don't get me wrong, he isn't bad, but he isn't the best. Bite 2 is a pretty decent damage move and can be very good. Pizza Wheel 2 is also very nice, but I think Rainy Day 2 is easily the best move. Not only does it lower the enemy's defense, but it also does damage at the same time, which is very nice as an added bonus while debuffing the enemy. So overall, not too bad. Definitely this is the start of characters all being pretty good to outright insane, and at this point, any one of these characters would be a fun addition to add to the party. Now we have another Bonnie. I know, crazy. But wait, where's his face? Anyways, Withered Bonnie is a pretty decent character, and considering how easy he is to get, being quite a common character in the Dusting Fields, at least in my experience. Unscrew 2 is a lot better as an insta-down move compared to normal Unscrew, with a 50% chance to kill an enemy instantly being a very nice effect. Although Pizza Wheel and I-Beam are just alright. Unscrew 2 is a very nice gamble move and is the only one I actually like. Well, besides one, but we'll get to that later. And I don't know what it is, but Withered Bonnie just feels nice to have in your party. So at the very least, he's got that, which is why he is the middle ground of our list. Nightmare Foxy is actually a very cool character, also having Unscrew 2 just like Withered Bonnie. However, unlike Withered Bonnie, Nightmare Foxy also has Bite 2, which is a very nice damage move, and Hot Cheese 2, which while it isn't the best, it's decent enough, which makes Nightmare Foxy a very fun and very useful damager to your party. Not much else to say, very nice character. Next up on the Nightmare animatronic train, we have Nightmare Chica, and for once, the chicken isn't at the bottom. Nightmare Chica is a character who has an interesting set of moves. Water Hose is pretty whatever, and Bite 2 is a good move, but the star of the show is Bad Pizza. Bad Pizza is an awesome damage move and definitely makes this character worth getting, although outside of that, there's not a lot that pushes them up any further. So with that, they stay where they are on the list. I'm Nightmare Freddy, and I'm actually a good FNAF World character. Bite 2 is an obviously decent move, Sludge is a very nice debuff for the enemies, and Freddles. Oh my god, Freddles is so fun. Granted, it's not the absolute best, but it is so unbelievably fun, and as an overall character, there's a lot you can do with this guy, and he's a very nice character for your party, both as a debuffer and a damager, which makes him number 21 on our list. So now we have a character who is a bit small. Yeah, haha, I know, I'm so funny, subscribe. Anyways, Plush Trap is a very nice addition to the party. Toxic Bite isn't too bad, but Sludge and Bad Pizza are very fun additions to the moveset, making Plush Trap quite the character to have in your party. So now we have the big bad himself from FNAF 4, the guy who calls the Bite of 83 Nightmare Fredbear. Actually, that was just normal Fredbear. Shut your fucking mouth! Anyways, this guy is an absolute demon. Toxic Bite might be one of the best upgrades to a move ever. Freddles is always a nice addition to the party, and Mega Bite, well, it exists. I'm not gonna lie, despite it being very nice, it's kind of whatever for me. But that doesn't stop Nightmare Fredbear from being an awesome addition to the party. So what happens if you take away the Fredbear? You get Nightmare. That was probably the worst joke I've ever told on this entire channel. Please, whatever you do, Don't hype this video so others can see. Anyways, Nightmare is pretty much just a better version of Nightmare Fredbear. On top of looking cooler, yes, it's because he's black, he also has a much better moveset in my opinion. Toxic Bite is a very nice damage move, and unlike the original Toxic Bite, is actually useful in late game. Mega Bite is okay, not much better than Bite 2, which is weirdly common. And Rainy Day 2, which is the best debuff move in the entire game in my opinion. Overall, take your pick of whether you think Nightmare Fredbear or Nightmare is better, but for me personally, Nightmare just feels right. When it comes to rare characters, Spring Bonnie is the absolute rarest character there is, with that rarity being the reason why they aren't any higher. With a 0.38% chance to be encountered with fine characters, they really aren't worth the grind to get. However, unlike Fredbear, this guy or gal has some great moves. Cosmic Song is an absolute powerhouse of a damage move, able to absolutely shred enemy health in a matter of seconds, although it does come with the added downside of absolutely shredding your bitrate. Springlocks is another fantastic damage move which can absolutely demolish an enemy's health, and Happy Gem 2, which is in my opinion the strongest healing move in the entire game. Well, outside of gift boxes, which are busted, and we'll get to that when it comes up. But Happy Gem 2 is 100% worth having as well as the rest of the roster. However, sadly, Spring Bonnie is just not worth the grind, which is why they sit where they do on the list. If there were any easier to find, they would be much higher on the list. But sadly, that just isn't the case. He always comes back. That's right, William Afton is hanging out with the other animatronics as a party member. This is the equivalent of Mario inviting Bowser to Mario Kart after he kidnaps his girlfriend every other week in the FNAF franchise. Anyways, this guy doesn't disappoint. While Bite 2 makes its 50th appearance, the addition of Rainy Day and Springlocks makes it all worth it. As I explained before, Springlocks is a very nice damage move, and unlike Spring Bonnie, Springtrap isn't nearly as rare, so you will actually get a chance to use it. Plus, Rainy Day is a nice debuff to the party, which is always nice. However, not the best version of William Afton in this game, you'll see that in a second, but definitely a great character to encounter if you happen to. So at number 15, we have the other Springtrap, William Afton, whatever you want to call it, the purple guy. Our first Halloween character on this list. And I know what you're thinking. Aren't all the Halloween characters number 1 because you need them for the Chica's Magic Rainbow ending, and they are just so strong, especially considering you can get them at the start of the game? Well, for the sake of making the list interesting and also not redundant, I will be considering how many endings each character can actually help you get, and also to be talking about it playing through the game normally, meaning you don't get the Halloween endings until after beating Scott, just to make it fair or interesting, because otherwise, fucking Fredbear would be number 1. Anyways, that doesn't stop the Halloween characters from being absolutely insane. And although Purple Guy is the worst of the Halloween characters, he is still a pretty insane character. Now getting him is a bit annoying as you do have to complete the Freddy in Space minigame while getting every single upgrade, which isn't hard to do, but it is annoying because you need to explore every part of the game, and also you have to play more Freddy in Space. But anyways, once you unlock them, they are a little underwhelming for a Halloween character. For starters, Speed Song. Fucking Toy Freddy has Speed Song, so it's pretty whatever. Hocus Pocus might be the single worst move in the entire game, turning enemies into weaker variants, which is whatever. Now Slasher is the only reason this guy isn't as bad as the others. Slasher has a 1 in 10 chance to deal 100,000 damage, which is an absolutely ridiculous amount of health, able to shred Scott, Chipper, and Security in a single hit, and making the impossible Chica's Magic Rainbow boss actually possible. However, besides that one absolutely insane and busted moves, he's pretty whatever, but that one move allows him to sit at the number 15 spot on our list. So, the next Halloween character is also someone who wasn't even in a FNAF game, Mr. Chipper, or just Chipper. This guy is kinda just meh for a Halloween character, although because he is a Halloween character, he has some killer moves. Mainly Buzzsaw, which is just an overpowered move, able to absolutely destroy an entire team of enemies. However, in contrast, Mimic Ball is pretty mid, and Hocus Pocus is the worst move in the entire game. Now, on top of this guy being as bad as he is, at least for a Halloween character, you also have to complete the dreaded Chica's Magic Rainbow minigame in under 3 minutes to get this guy, which is just ridiculous. And while some people will say that it's not that hard, those people have way too many hours playing FNAF anyways. I would put Chipper lower on the list for that reason alone, but Buzzsaw does save him from being completely useless, so I suppose he gets the number 14 spot for that. Oh my god, our final balloon kid. Please, no more. I beg of you. No more, Scott, please. Okay, to be fair, for the last balloon kid on our list, it's a pretty good one. Bubble Breath is a weird move, as it's only good in the Geist layer, as it allows you to actually breathe the air and actually live. However, other than that, it's completely useless. Megabyte is kind of funny, being in a Halloween character of all things, but holy god, Balloons 2 is absolutely insane. Out of every single move in the game that has a second variant, Balloons 2 might be the biggest upgrade out of any move in the entire game. Absolutely smashing enemies with over 30 balloons, which is absolutely insane. Plus, those balloons do a lot of damage. Getting this guy is a little bit more tame than Chipper, only needing to get an A rank in Foxy Fighters, which isn't the easiest thing, but it's pretty manageable in comparison to the other characters, which makes Nightmare BB worth getting. Although, in my opinion, there are definitely better Halloween characters to get, which is why he is where he is on the list. Now, if you saw my previous video from nearly 2 years ago, you will know that I put Phantom Freddy at the very bottom, and my reasoning was you could just use Curse Status to apply all 3 effects without doing anything. However, there were 2 things I didn't consider. One, you encounter this character very early on, and he could potentially be the first character you ever find, or Curse Status is a very late game chip, meaning you would have more time to actually use Phantom Freddy throughout the game. And 2, there are plenty of chips you'd want to use over Curse Status, so in a lot of ways, Phantom Freddy is a lot more useful than I gave him credit for. And yes, I can admit when I'm wrong, don't shoot me, it was just an opinion at the time, God. Anyways, on to Phantom Freddy himself. His moves, Sludge, Gloomsong, and Rainy Day are all great debuffs to the enemy party, and his ability to apply them so frequently means that the enemies can never catch a break. On top of that, because you encounter Phantom Freddy very early on in the game, it's very likely that you can level this guy up to be an absolute demon. The only thing that holds him back is that by himself, he cannot do anything substantial to the enemy. But otherwise, he's a great enemy debuffer and earns his place from being at the very bottom to number 12 on our list. Now, behind every single animatronic, there is an endoskeleton underneath, and Endo 02 is a pretty good one to have. Endo 02's moves are very nice. While Speed Song is an okay move, it actually serves quite well with his other moves. Neon Wall is pretty good, although the chip does make up for it and makes this move kind of redundant. However, Endo Army is such a great move, and it's probably one of the best passive attack moves in the entire game, spawning 3 Endos which shoot constantly at the enemy for a period of time, which is absolutely fantastic and can be constantly refreshed along with using other moves, which will absolutely demolish any opposition. So yeah, this guy is pretty cool, and compared to fucking Endo Plush, he's an absolute godsend. However, there is one Endo who is slightly better, and let's talk about him. Well, here's the other Endo. On top of looking a lot cuter in my opinion, and also having Endo Army, Endo 01 has Armor Song and Power Song, which increases your team's defense and attack, which is very helpful. Endo 01 really acts as the support character for your team, and he does that very well. Not much else to add besides that he's just a better Endo 02, and that's why he's my GOAT. So never in my life would I think that a crying child would be a great RPG character, but here we are. Now, like Endo 01, Crying Child has Power Song and Armor Song, which on top of being very good moves, are also probably made with his own tiers. But anyways, what move could Crying Child have that makes him so much better than Endo 01? Surely nothing is better than Endo Army. Holy shit. So yeah, Gift Boxes is the most unbelievably broken move in the entire game, and it isn't even close. Gift Boxes is even better than any of the Halloween moves. Gift Boxes are absolutely insane, and it is a big reason why you see it banned in every FNAF World Challenge video. Gift Boxes allows your entire party to essentially get an extra life, and on top of that, you can just refresh this over and over and over and over again, making you basically completely invincible. And while there is a chip version of this move, that can be removed with Gloomsong for any reason, and it's a one-time use compared to the infinite refresh you can have with a party member. So you know, Gift Boxes is going to be a huge factor in a lot of these characters being as high as they are. But now, we're getting to the top 8 characters, the ideal perfect party in my eyes. But before we get into that, I will once again ask that if you're enjoying the video, please consider hitting that like button to help boost this video, and comment below who your favourite FNAF World character is. Also, might as well subscribe to help us reach 150k by the end of the year. I appreciate the support. But now, let's get into the final 8. So first up in the perfect party, we have my all-time favourite FNAF character, the yellow bear himself, Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy is actually quite a common character when you look at the character encounters, and out of all the uncommon characters, Golden Freddy is by far the best bang for your buck. Jump Scare is a pretty decent move, Rainy Day 2 is a really good debuffer move, however the reason he is so high is due to one move. That move being Haunting. Haunting causes a ghost to attack the enemies and basically freeze them and stalls them for a period of time, giving you all the time in the world to beat the crap out of your enemies. It's a fantastic ability, and being on one of the coolest characters is an absolute bonus for me. If you get Golden Freddy early on, which is very, very likely, you're in for a fun time. So this is an interesting turn of events. Last time I did this video, Coffee easily sat at the #1 spot, and I even have a viral shot which I said he was easily the best. However, with time comes wisdom, and while he is the best character in the game in terms of moves alone, there is a pretty big thing that holds him back, but we will get into that in a bit. For starters, the moveset. Gift boxes are broken, we already established that, and this move actually feels balanced on this character, believe it or not. Funny how that works. Mega Virus is one of the most insane passive damage moves in the entire game, basically being as strong as a buzzsaw or fourth wall, but constantly damaging the enemies, which is insanely busted. And finally, Neon Wall 2, which makes you completely invincible to any attack for 5 seconds, which can be insanely clutch. Now, why isn't this guy any higher? Well, remember how we are judging these guys based on how easy they are to get? This guy is probably the single hardest character to get in the entire game, besides like Spring Bonnie, requiring you to beat the long and tedious Freddy in space without getting a single upgrade. Meaning you gotta deal with this dog shit gun with no damage and fight your way through all the bullshit just to get a cup of coffee. So sadly, it just isn't worth it. And as there are other characters who can do a similar amount of damage and support without needing to give up an arm or leg to get it, sadly, the coffee machine sits at #7 in the Desolate Hope. Get it? Because it's like the game he's in and stuff, and I'm so funny. Now, out of all the Halloween characters, this one is by far the single easiest one to unlock. Foxy.exe is such an easy level that you can do it with your eyes closed, and the fact you get Nightmare On out of it is insane. Now, 2 of their moves are useless in the wider game. Prize Ball 2 is so unbelievably bad, and Bubble Breath is only good in the Geist Lair. However, Fourth Wall makes it all worth it, able to absolutely destroy enemies and also wipe out the little rainbows in the Chica's Magic Rainbow boss fight. This guy is so worth getting, as he's such low effort, it means nothing, and he's just such a good character for the late stage of the game, it's basically just a free upgrade. So now we have finally made it. The man himself, the man behind all of this, Scott Cawthon, or Anim Dude as a character. Anyways, Anim Dude is a nightmare to get, needing you to beat Chica's Magic Rainbow. Although without that 3-minute timer, it's a lot more manageable, and on top of that, this guy is much more worth it than Chipper. Fourth Wall is of course fantastic, as well as Mega Virus, which makes this guy the tank of FNAF World, dealing more damage than pretty much any character, although Slasher isn't the same, but anyways. Sadly, Neon Wall is pretty much useless. If it was Neon Wall 2, this guy might have been #1, but sadly, the first version is pretty bad, so I gotta keep Mr. Scott Cawthon himself down in the #5 spot as the top member of Team 2. But now let's get into the best 4 characters for Team 1. Now, the FNAF 4 Halloween update added some very interesting characters, and while Nightmare of Mangle never got added to FNAF World for some ungodly reason, they sure remembered to add Jacko Bonnie, who, in all fairness, is just awesome. Getting him is a tad annoying, requiring you to play Freddy in space, but you only have to get some of the upgrades and not every single one. Even if you miss one, you get Jacko Bonnie. This is, in my opinion, actually the best way to beat this game, as you get access to the strong guns, but don't have to search every nook and cranny for upgrades, and Jacko Bonnie is so worth the effort. Haunting is again a very nice move for passive slowdown, and Jacko Bombs might be just as good as moves as Buzzsaw or Fourth Wall, which makes it a fantastic damage move. However, Slasher makes this guy insane. Obviously it's a gamble move, but with a 1 in 10 chance for 100,000 damage, that's insane. It's so worth getting. But this guy's whole moveset is so good and easily makes him the #4 spot on our list. Now what's better than a rabbit resembling a jack-o'-lantern? How about a chicken? Jacko Chica is pretty much the exact same character as Jacko Bonnie, except that instead of Slasher, they have Buzzsaw, which is a fantastic move. On top of that, I think that Jacko Chica is much easier to get, only requiring you to get a B rank in Foxy Fighters. You can say that Jacko Bonnie is better, but either way, you can't deny how good these characters are, and in my opinion, Jacko Chica is very deserving of the bronze medal on this tier list. Now, throughout FNAF's history, no character has become as iconic for its mystery other than Shadow Bonnie. Okay, maybe a few others, but whatever. I mean, did you know that bro was in the FNAF 2 movie for a single frame? Bet you didn't. Best frame in the whole movie, by the way. Once again, you have another gift boxer, and you already know how unbelievably busted that move is. He also has Haunting, which is a fantastic slowdown move, as mentioned before, and Mimic Ball, which while I don't really like it, it fits Shadow Bonnie the best out of any character in the game, with both gift boxes and Haunting working so much better with Mimic Ball than any other move in the entire game. And while Shadow Bonnie is rarer than the others, getting them is so worth it, and they aren't as rare as some of the others, and they just are so much more worth it. But while Shadow Bonnie gets the silver, one character remains, and they easily deserve the gold. So, for now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You either noticed that they were missing throughout the video, or you skip to the end and have no idea who it is, which in that case, what are you doing? Please watch the whole thing, I beg of you. Anyways, let's get into it. The number one best character in FNAF World. So going into this tier list, I had just one character in mind which held the number one spot. One character who was so great you could arguably beat the whole game with them, even having potential to be used during the Chica's Magic Rainbow boss fight. Well, maybe not, but whatever. And that character is someone who was introduced into the franchise with this game. A fan favorite and someone who was the star of the thumbnail. That character being Funtime Foxy. I mean, what more could you want in a character? For starters, Happy Jam 2, arguably the single best healing move in the entire game. A must have. And if healing doesn't do the job, just use gift boxes. Yes, we have another gift boxer, and gift boxes is still broken as fuck. Another absolute must have in your arsenal. And if that wasn't enough, if the team is healed, you can use Cosmic Song to smash the hell out of your enemies, which is such a fantastic damage move beaten only by the broken Halloween moves. Funtime Foxy also is just not the rarest character ever, which while they aren't the most common character, it is so worth to get to them into your party at any point in the game. Arguably the best set of moves in the entire game, no massive grind to get them, and also a lot more opportunities to use them and a lot more help throughout the entire game, only really not being able to be used in the Chica's Magic Rainbow ending. In my opinion, the perfect character and the single best character in all of FNAF World. And there we have it. All 48 characters ranked from worst to best. Remember that this is all my own opinion, although I would love to hear your rankings in the comments below. If you've enjoyed, be sure to subscribe, like, hype the video, and even consider joining our channel memberships, which speaking of which, thank you guys so much. Also, to you, the viewer at home, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.